Good morning. We are going to try and make the orthographic projection, old school drafting of this shape. This is shape number 1 for the old school drafting assignment. And as you can see, our measurements on here are 2 inches tall, 3 inches wide, 1 inch on this edge, the height over here, and 1 inch in depth. And this top little piece is 1 inch. So not very many measurements on here. But the first thing we need to do is prepare our piece of paper. So if you look at the instructions on the Canvas page, it has that for you also. Remember, on our scale, we're looking for the side that says 16. So here's my side that says 16 right there. And I want to make sure that that one is touching the table. It's not sticking up in the air, because I can't measure anything while it's sticking up in the air. I need to make sure it's touching the table. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to start at the edge of my piece of paper, and I'm going to measure over 1/2 of an inch. So I'm going to measure over 0.5, 1/2 an inch, and I make myself a small little dot. And I know you can barely see that. That's okay. I'm going to make me another dot here. And I know you can barely see those 2 dots. And let me make it just a tad bigger so you can see it on my camera here. And then I'm going to use my straight edge here. I'm going to line up those 2 dots, and I'm going to draw my line from edge to edge. This is an object line, so it's going to be a dark line, not a light line. Now that I have my ruler turned, my scale turned, I'm going to start with my 0 up on the top edge here. I'm going to make my dot at 1/2 an inch, slide down, do it again, and line up those 2 dots on my straight edge and draw my object line from edge to edge. Okay, turn it around so I can look at the other side here. Now I'm looking over the top. I can't see it from my side. I have to look over the top to make my 2 points. Remember, it takes 2 points to make a parallel line. So there's my 2 points. Line up my straight edge on those 2. Sometimes it helps if you put your pencil on the edge, and then you can have one and you're just looking at the other one as opposed to trying to look at both of them back and forth. There's my object line, and my last one is from the bottom here. So I turn my 0, so I'm looking at the bottom corner, or the bottom edge, mark it at 1/2 an inch, slide over, mark it at 1/2 an inch. And now I'm going to draw that last line. Line up the 2 points and draw my line from edge to edge. Okay, so now I have my border all the way around my piece of paper. I need to get my starting point. My starting point is going to be 2 inches in on this side and 2 inches in from the bottom. So take my scale, I find my side 16 just in case I moved it. I'm going to put it now on the border, and I'm going to make me a dot at 2 inches. Come down and make me a dot at 2 inches. And this time it's going to be a construction line. Remember, a construction line is the lightest line on the page. You want to make it as light as possible so it can easily be erased. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on my camera. You can barely see it. It's just a really light line, and that's what you want. And then I'm going to go from the bottom border. This is not from the bottom edge, the bottom border. This is all about measuring, because mechanical drawing, drafting, we're trying to make sure that the person who's reading it can actively see what's going on. So I measured 2 inches from the bottom. I measured my 2 points because 2 points makes a parallel line. Line up those 2 points, line up those 2 points and draw my construction line. This time it's going to go from border to border. You don't want to go all the way to the edge. I'm going to circle this point right here because this is where I'm going to start my drawing. I need to make my nameplate down here. So I'm going to end up putting 3 lines across here. I need to start with, I'm going to make 3 little dots for those 3 little lines. Each one is going to be 1/4 of an inch apart from each other. And I know that it's hard for you to see. I'll try to zoom in and see if I can make this a little bit better. But for right now, I'm going to make a dot at 1/4 of an inch, a dot at 2/4 of an inch, and a dot at 3/4 of an inch. So I've given myself 3 little dots right there. I'm going to move over just a little bit, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch, 2/4 of an inch, and 3/4 of an inch. So now I have 2 sets of dots, and those are going to be able to allow me to make parallel lines. I'm going to make these lines 3 inches long. So I want to make a dot at 3 inches. And that's going to tell me where to stop. These are, again, our construction lines. You want to make sure that you can erase them if you need to. And I'm going to line up the first one, and I'm going to draw it 3 inches long. So I'm going to go and draw it 3 inches. So there's my first one. Line up my second one. And draw it 3 inches. I know where to stop because there's my stopping point. And then I'm going to draw my third one, and I'm going to go 3 inches. And so there's my 3 little lines. In between the first 2 is going to be my name, first and last, all capital letters, because again, we're trying to make this easy for someone in another country to be able to read. English is already hard enough. We want to put them all in capital letters. So, M-E-A-S-O-N space K-O-L-K-H-O-R-S-T. You'll notice my handwriting is not the greatest in the world. I'm not worried about that. I just need to make sure you have this information down. On the next one, it's going to be our drawing number. So I'm going to put drawing, D-R-A-W-I-N-G, hashtag, because that's what the old school for number is. And this is going to be drawing number 1. And then finally, the period that you're in, P-E-R-I-O-D, hashtag, and whatever period you're in, whether it's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, whichever period, you're going to write your period in there. Okay, I'm going to put a question mark because I don't know what period you're in. And so this is how you're going to start every single drawing. Every single drawing is going to be exactly the same way. You start off this way for every single one. So now we're going to try and draw our orthographic projection of this shape. So we know that we're going to start right here at this little plus sign that we created. And we're going to draw this front view. So we're drawing just this view as if we were a little person standing over here looking at this building. Okay, so it's in the shape of an L. We know the height is going to be 2 inches. We know the width is going to be 3 inches. So from this point, I got to find my side 16, turn it around. So I find my side 16, put the 0 on my starting point here, and I'm going to mark it at 3 inches. Remember, this is all construction lines, so they're going to be very light, very soft lines. How many points to make a parallel line? 2. So I have to slide up and do it again. I'm looking over the top, so I want to make sure I'm looking at the right place. I'm going to make me a dot at 3 inches, and then I can make my construction line. Line up my 2 little points, and I'm going to draw that construction line from border to border. Okay, now I got to measure my height. I'm going to turn my scale around so I'm measuring the right direction. Start at the 0, mark it at 2 inches. Slide over, mark it at 2 inches. I have my 2 points. Line up my scale so I have my straight edge, and I draw my construction line. Okay, so now I know that my front view is going to fit inside of that square. So we take a look at it again. I know my height is 2 inches. I know my width is 3 inches. The only other parts I need to get are this piece that's going to be cut out. I know the height here is 1 inch, and I know the width here is 1 inch. So I'm going to come over, and from this edge, I'm going to measure 1 inch. So I'm going to measure over 1 inch, slide up, do it again, measure 1 inch, and draw my construction line. Remember, construction line, lightest line on the page, so it can easily be erased. Or draw that construction line. Now I'm going to measure sideways. For width, I'm going to measure over 1 inch. I'm going to slide up, do it again, measure over 1 inch. I made a mistake.
This is why we do construction lines. Oh, so much noise! My television has been going beep, beep, beep all this time during this video.
Okay, so I want to measure up 1 inch, not sideways from this edge. I want to measure up and down for height. I'm going to measure from 1 to 0 because it's easier for me. Measure 1 inch, slide over, give me a second point so I can make my parallel line. There's my 2 points. Line them up with my scale, and I'm going to draw my construction line from left to right. Hooray, now I have it correct. Then I'm going to go from this edge, measure over 1 inch, slide up, measure over 1 inch. Oh, I've done that already. Looky, lots of little dots I can choose from. They're all 1 inch, it's not going to matter. And there is my front view. All I need to do now is darken them in as object lines. So line up my straight edge. Again, I want to use my straight edge for this because I'm trying to make it as straight as possible, to make it as accurate as possible. So there are my height lines, and now my width. And there is my front view. It's that L shape from here. There's my L shape. Okay, now we're going to go to the top view. On my top view, I want to skip up an amount. Doesn't really matter what that amount is, but whatever amount you skip up here, we want the exact same amount over here because we're trying to be consistent. For ease, I'm just going to go up 1 inch, go up 1 inch, go up 1 inch, and I'm going to draw my construction line. Did I measure that right? Ooh, that doesn't look right. Let's measure twice. Boop. There we go. That looks better. Line up my 2 points. Draw my construction line. And now I'm going to start my top view right at this point. We know that our depth of this shape is 1 inch all the way across, 1 inch. So I'm going to draw 1 inch up again because I'm looking at my depth. Make sure I'm on my side 16. Measure up 1 inch. Measure up 1 inch. And now I draw that construction line. Oops, get it lined up. And here's my top view. If you look here for the top view of this shape, we have a square and a rectangle. And here is that square and that rectangle. All you need to do now is darken in object lines so that we can actually see it as opposed to it being construction lines. And there we go. And this is why we make our construction lines all the way from border to border. You'll notice I did not have to measure my width because I had that measurement down here. I didn't have to measure my width. Same thing when we go to our side view here. I don't have to measure my height. That height is already done. When I look at this, my height, we already have those measurements. The only thing I need is my width for the side view. And if we look at the side view of this, we have two squares that are going to be stacked on top of each other. If I'm the little person standing here, I can see this square and I can see this square. And they're stacked on top of each other. There's no gap in between. So I'm going to move over 1 inch because my gap was 1 inch above. So I'm going to make a gap of 1 inch beside it because I want those gaps to be the same. Construction line, and we're one more line from being finished. We know that our depth here is 1 inch, so I'm going to go over 1 inch again. 1 inch, 1 inch. Draw that construction line. Oh no, I'm going to run into my nameplate. I should just stop at my nameplate so I wouldn't draw below that. So there's my construction line, and here are the two squares that represent my side view. All I need to do is darken them in as object lines. Darken in. There we go. There is the front view, the top view, and the side view. You don't need to label these. All you need to do at this point, you have your name on it, you have our drawing number, we have our period, we have our drawing. This is what you're going to turn into me. And hope you're as successful as I was. Even though I made some mistakes, I was easily able to fix it. You should be able to do the same. And good luck. You've got at least 2 more. Have a beautiful day.